Kimi Antonelli lost 3 grid positions before the Hungarian Grand Prix even started, dropping from 4th to 7th after a yellow flag infringement in the final part of qualifying. Now, Max Verstappen's name has been dragged into claims of further penalties, fresh evidence, and major action from the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile. But one detail could destroy the entire story. Antonelli's punishment is confirmed. A new penalty for Verstappen is not. There is no verified incident connecting the two drivers, no confirmed investigation involving both of them, and no official evidence that Verstappen has received another sanction. So how did one real penalty become a supposed double punishment that changes everything? And what happened in Hungary that made this unconfirmed claim spread so quickly? The answer exposes something much bigger than one grid drop. Subscribe to the channel. To understand why Kimi Antonelli's penalty became connected to Max Verstappen, we have to begin with the one part of the story that is fully confirmed. Antonelli qualified 4th. Then, after the session, he received a 3-place grid penalty for a yellow flag infringement during the final part of qualifying. 4th became 7th. And at the Hungaroring, that is not a small change. Track position matters heavily there. The circuit is narrow, overtaking can be difficult, and losing 3 places before the lights even go out can completely alter a driver's race. A front-running start becomes a traffic problem. A clean strategic window becomes a reaction. A chance to attack becomes a need to recover. That is why Antonelli's penalty immediately felt important. He had already done the hard part. He had put the car 4th on the grid. Then the official result changed. But this is where the story begins to split in two. Antonelli's punishment is documented. Verstappen's supposed further penalty is not. The source does not identify a new offense involving Verstappen. It does not describe contact between Verstappen and Antonelli. It does not confirm hidden footage. And it does not provide an official decision showing that both drivers were punished as part of the same case. That distinction is everything. Because one confirmed penalty can make a second, unconfirmed claim feel more believable. People see Antonelli punished. Then they hear Verstappen's name. Then they hear the words further penalties. And suddenly, separate ideas begin sounding like one official announcement. But they are not the same. Antonelli's case came from a yellow flag infringement in qualifying. A yellow flag is one of the clearest safety signals in motorsport. It tells drivers that danger is ahead. A car may be stopped. A marshal may be close to the track. Debris may be present. Whatever the reason, the message is simple. Slow down. Be prepared to react. That is why officials treat yellow flag incidents seriously. The rule is not only about competition. It is about protecting the people and cars inside a dangerous area. And once the stewards judged that Antonelli had committed an infringement, the 3-place grid penalty followed. That part is not speculation. But the claim involving Verstappen lacks the same foundation. There is no confirmed incident. No confirmed rule. No confirmed evidence. No confirmed penalty. And without those 4 elements, the story cannot move from rumor to fact. Still, the connection feels powerful. Why? Because Verstappen's name changes the scale of any Formula One controversy. He is one of the sport's biggest drivers. Add him to Antonelli. Add the governing body. Add the phrase further penalties. The story suddenly sounds enormous. But size does not create evidence. It creates attention. And attention is where rumors become dangerous. A single real event gives the story credibility. The unconfirmed part borrows that credibility. Antonelli was punished, so people assume another punishment must also be real. But that is not how official decisions work. Every penalty needs its own incident, its own evidence, its own regulation, its own ruling. A driver cannot become guilty through association. That sounds obvious. Yet in the rush after a chaotic Grand Prix weekend, those lines can disappear quickly. One report mentions a penalty. Another mentions a driver reaction. A third suggests further action. Then all 3 are merged into one dramatic narrative. By the time the story reaches the audience, it sounds complete. But when the details are separated, the gaps become impossible to ignore. Antonelli's penalty was about qualifying. Verstappen's supposed penalty has no confirmed basis in the source. There is no documented shared incident. There is no official indication that the governing body combined their cases. And that means the headline is doing more work than the evidence. But the real Antonelli story is already significant enough on its own. Starting 4th would have placed him close to the front. Starting 7th changed the entire opening phase of his race. 3 places can mean more cars to clear, more time in disturbed air, more tire temperature problems, more risk through the first corners, and less freedom for strategy. Think of trying to leave a crowded room. From 4th in line, the exit feels close. From 7th, 3 more people can block every movement. The distance is small. The delay can become much larger. That is how grid penalties reshape a Grand Prix. The official change is 3 positions. The real effect can last for the entire race. A driver may be forced to attack earlier. That can hurt tire life. He may be trapped behind a slower car. That can reduce cooling. He may lose the chance to choose the ideal pit stop window. And once one strategic option disappears, the team can spend the rest of the race reacting. That is why Antonelli's case mattered before the start. The penalty did not only alter a number. It altered the race he was about to drive. But here is what most people miss. The phrase changes everything may actually fit Antonelli better than Verstappen. Not because another punishment was confirmed. Because Antonelli's entire race position changed before the Grand Prix began. He had qualified 4th. He was reassigned to 7th. The difference affected risk, traffic, tire management, and strategy. That is a genuine sporting consequence. The supposed Verstappen angle does not have the same confirmed detail. So the deeper question becomes uncomfortable. Why does the unverified part receive more attention than the confirmed one? Because Formula One audiences are drawn to conflict. A straightforward grid penalty is important. A shared scandal involving Verstappen and Antonelli sounds explosive. The second version promises rivalry, controversy, and hidden consequences. But a dramatic promise must still be supported. And right now, the source supports only one half. That does not mean no further information could emerge later. It means no further penalty can be stated as fact based on the available material. This is where accuracy becomes more important than excitement. Because if Verstappen's name is attached to an official punishment without evidence, the audience is no longer being shown a mystery. It is being given a conclusion that has not been earned. And the real Formula One story deserves better than that. Antonelli's penalty already opens several important questions. How much did the grid drop damage his race? Could the stewards have applied a different punishment? Did the yellow flag offense create a real safety concern? Was the decision consistent with similar cases? Those are legitimate questions. But the attached source does not provide enough detail to answer all of them. It confirms the infringement and the 3-place drop. It does not provide the complete stewarding document or the full evidence considered. So even here, caution matters. The decision is confirmed. The deeper reasoning remains only partly visible. And that creates a useful contrast with the Verstappen claim. Antonelli's case has a confirmed outcome, but limited detail. Verstappen's alleged case has neither a confirmed outcome nor a documented incident. Those are not equal levels of evidence. Yet the headline treats them as if they are. That is how uncertainty becomes distorted. People begin asking what Verstappen's penalty means. But the first question should be whether the penalty exists. They begin asking how both drivers will be affected. But the first question should be whether both were officially involved. They begin predicting championship consequences. But the first question should be whether any new ruling was issued at all. That order matters. Evidence first. Interpretation second. Consequences last. When that order is reversed, rumor becomes authority. And the Hungarian Grand Prix created exactly the kind of environment where that can happen. Penalties were already part of the weekend. Hamilton received a 3-place grid drop after obstructing Oscar Piastri. Antonelli received his own 3-place grid drop for the yellow flag infringement. Then Hamilton received another 5-second penalty during the race for pit lane speeding. The weekend already felt dominated by official decisions. That made the idea of further penalties seem plausible. But plausible is not confirmed. A crowded penalty sheet can create expectation. People assume another ruling must be coming. Then Verstappen's name enters the conversation, and the rumor gains momentum. But the source remains clear. No additional Verstappen penalty is confirmed. No combined investigation is confirmed. No hidden footage is confirmed. No shared incident with Antonelli is confirmed. That does not weaken the story. It reveals the real one. The Hungarian Grand Prix was already complicated enough without inventing another ruling. Antonelli's penalty changed his race. Hamilton's penalties changed both his starting and finishing positions. And the growing confusion around Verstappen shows how easily one real decision can become the foundation for a completely separate claim. That may be the most important lesson from this entire controversy. Official Formula One penalties do not exist because a headline says they do. They exist because an incident is reviewed, a regulation is identified, and a decision is published. Remove any one of those pieces, and the claim becomes unstable. Remove all three, and the claim becomes speculation. Verstappen's supposed further punishment currently sits in that second category. Antonelli's does not. His grid drop was real. Its consequences were real. And the next part of the story is where those consequences become much larger than 3 positions. Because starting 7th instead of 4th does not only change where a driver begins. It changes what he must risk before he even reaches the first pit stop. Starting 7th instead of 4th changes the race before the driver has even reached the first corner. From 4th, Antonelli would have been close enough to the leaders to attack without immediately becoming trapped inside the midfield fight. From 7th, the situation became far more dangerous. More cars ahead, more dirty air, more pressure, and far fewer clean decisions. That matters because the opening lap at the Hungaroring is not only about speed. It is about survival. The run into the first corner gives drivers one of their best overtaking chances of the entire race. Cars spread across the track. Braking points become uncertain. Drivers on the inside fight for space, while those on the outside try to avoid being pushed wide. From 4th, Antonelli could have focused on the cars at the front. From 7th, he had to watch several battles developing around him at the same time. One move ahead could force another driver to brake early. One car beside him could close the available space. One small hesitation could cost multiple positions. That is how a 3-place grid penalty creates consequences much larger than 3 places. It changes the driver's first decision, then the second, then every decision that follows. And here is where the race becomes a chain reaction. Starting lower increases the chance of traffic. Traffic can increase tire temperature. Higher tire temperature can reduce grip. Reduced grip can force the driver to slow down. Then the driver loses more time behind the same cars he was trying to pass. The problem begins feeding itself. Think of standing in a queue where every person ahead is moving at a slightly different speed. You may be capable of walking faster than all of them. But until a clear path opens, that extra speed means almost nothing. That is what Antonelli faced after being moved to 7th. The car may still have had the pace that placed it 4th in qualifying. But the race conditions no longer allowed him to use that pace in the same way. And this is where people often misunderstand grid penalties. They look at the number and assume the punishment ends when the race begins. It does not. The penalty follows the driver into the opening lap. It follows him into the first tire stint. It affects the first pit stop. It changes which cars he must overtake. And it can influence whether the team chooses patience or risk. A driver starting 4th may be able to wait for strategy. A driver starting 7th may feel pressure to recover immediately. That pressure can lead to aggressive moves. Aggressive moves can damage the tires. Then the team loses the option of extending the stint. One decision creates another. And soon, the race Antonelli prepared for no longer exists. That is the real cost of the penalty. Not only the lost grid positions, the lost control. But there is another part of this story that deserves attention. Antonelli's penalty came from a yellow flag infringement during the final part of qualifying. That means the governing body was dealing with a safety rule, not a minor procedural detail. A yellow flag warns drivers that something dangerous may be ahead. The exact circumstances are not fully described in the source. But the principle is clear. Drivers must respond. They must reduce risk. And they must be prepared for the possibility that the normal racing line is no longer safe. That is why yellow flag penalties often carry serious consequences. The officials are not only protecting competition. They are protecting people. Marshals may be near the circuit. A stopped car may be partly exposed. Debris may be present. The driver cannot assume the track is clear simply because he does not immediately see the danger. So Antonelli's 3-place penalty was not created in the same way as Hamilton's pit lane speeding penalty. The sporting result looked similar. Both drivers lost 3 grid positions after qualifying. But the underlying concerns were different. Hamilton's case involved obstructing Oscar Piastri at turn 1. Antonelli's involved a yellow flag infringement. That distinction matters because Formula 1 penalties can look identical while responding to completely different risks. One concerns interference with another driver's lap. The other concerns reaction to a safety signal. Same grid drop, different offense, different reasoning.